Hey, Aliza Ben Shalom here from Matchmaker Podcast. You probably know me best from Jewish matchmaking on Netflix. Kind of my claim to fame. I'll probably stick with that forever. And I'm excited that we are back because we have a very fascinating guest. I have known her for the last 6-ish, 7 years.
Sounds right.
Her name is Becky Tahel. She is the producer of American Birthright, and she has, that's like one of a bazillion things she's done, but that was a huge project. She is a content creator extraordinaire, and she's filming for some new Soulmate stuff, which I don't know if we can talk about, but we'll ask. And this is my theme for us today. We're better together, because I think not just you and I are better together, but I think you and your husband are better together. She got married how long ago?
5 years.
5 years ago.
It'll be 5 years.
It'll be 5 years.
So 4.5. But who's counting?
Yes, I am.
Not me accurately, apparently.
4.5 to 5 years ago, she got married. You and your husband figured this out. You and I schmoozed a lot about dating, love, and relationships. You, to be quite honest, were a little bit like, I'm just curious. I wonder what I can figure out all over the place. And I was like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Right.
Like,
You did this a lot to me.
Yeah, and I was like, well, maybe let's like focus in. Let's zoom in. Let's. And you're like, well, I'm just exploring. And I was like, exploring is good. Information is good. But then we have to like pull all the information down from our head into our heart, make sense of it, and go, who am I? What do I want? And that was really your journey. And I think American Birthright kicked that off. So maybe you want to tell us a little bit about your journey, American Birthright, and how you got to being this lovely 4.5 to 5 year married human.
I can't even believe that's my identity currently. It's insane. Every morning I wake up, I have like 2 kids and a husband and a business, but it all was because I did this thing that was so not sexy to me when you told me to do it 6 years ago.
To zoom in.
You were like focused, like a horse with blinders
That's exactly
on.
what I said to you, because that is something that's visual reference that I give people all the time. Like a horse with blinders on, right? You know the direction you're going. Just go in it. And you're like, no, let me explore the world. And I was like, no, marriage, family, that's the world you want to explore.
Well, the thing is, I didn't know what direction I was going in. So when you at the moment were like, do this, I was like, well, what if I don't know what direction? And you said, just pick one and go, and you'll know. Like once you commit and you take a few steps forward, that's going to be the telltale sign. And in that moment, so 6 years ago, I was knee deep in a documentary journey because my sister had married someone not Jewish, which like I had dated non-Jews. Why was that such a big deal? But it bumped me. Her marriage choice bumped me, and that bumped me. I needed to figure out why her choice was bringing up so much in me. And I realized, well, I hadn't done any of the digging for myself. I hadn't asked the deeper questions. I had no clue who I was, what I wanted, and really where Judaism stood in terms of my preference in just life choices and also in marriage. So the documentary really is an interfaith marriage turned soul trek to truth journey that brings me back full circle to finally having clarity around who I am and who I want to marry.
Okay, so who are you? What did you figure out? And who did you decide to marry? And was it anything of what you imagined?
No. And I was so resistant to a lot of the pivots that I ended up taking. I remember even like 10, 15 years ago going to Israel and mentors saying like, you should come and learn more about Torah and deep mystical wisdom. And I was like, no. Like I am an actress. I'm going to Hollywood. I'm going to make it. I'm going to create.
I'm going to be famous.
And
who needs Torah?
Yeah.
Right?
Because that was where I found purpose and meaning in validation, in vanity metrics, in working for Jake Paul and Jay Shetty and having babysat for celebrities. And look, I'm glad I went that route. I'm glad that committing to that found me very unfulfilled. Like I knew that wasn't going, it was great for a moment,
right? But
then I was like, okay, so what were all these people saying 10 years ago?
What do I really need to be doing? So what did you figure out? What was your aha moment? What was your clarity moment when you were like, oh, I can put blinders on because I need to go in this direction and I know what that direction is. What was that direction?
Well, it was where my fear was. I didn't want to sit down with an Orthodox by the book rabbi to tell me what our tradition was all about. I felt like I was going to be converted. I felt like people were going to tell me, you need to change everything and everything you've been doing is wrong. I didn't want all that responsibility. Like I really didn't want that. I didn't want all that hard work because I was sold on the fairy tale, and that fairy tale seemed really fun and light and playful. And like you said, I'm very that. I'm still very that.
Me too. I'm fun and light and playful, and to bring that into a marriage, which is serious and focused and, very adulting. We have to actually grow up and do adult things, like repair our car and pay our rent and mortgage. And
so many human choices.
There's a lot of things that I have to do that I'm adulting. And I'm like, okay, can somebody else take care of this? And I'm like, no, it's all on me.
It's a lot of responsibility.
It's a lot of responsibility.
It's heavy, but it's Rebbitzin Alana Cowland, who's in my film, talks about TMT. This means that. So to me, like responsibility used to mean boring, heavy, just like in relationships when like a fight would come, like fight meant divorce, because that's what I grew up seeing. So I had to do a lot of like rejiggering of meaning in my life, and my Jewish
responsibility can mean freedom. My kids are like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for the day that I could do this on my own, right? Because to them, responsibility and what they get out of it equals freedom to do what you want, which is so true, right? Yeah. I can buy the house or the car or the vacation, or I could take time off or be on, or I could so much freedom to do whatever I want. But at the same time, responsibility tells us, well, there's certain things we have to do. But I love the perspective shift.
I needed
like
that.
The TMT, this means that.
I needed that.
What does that mean to me?
Well, and I needed role models. I needed to talk to women like you who were living in ways that felt self-expressed. Like, I had this vision of what a Torah life meant. And then when I went to Israel, I went to seminary, spoiler alert, I ended up a little bit more observant at the end of the film. And my sister still remains married to a non-Jew, and we're able to hold space for each other despite our differences.
And you have a beautiful relationship.
Absolutely, because you don't have to be wrong for me to be right. Like we can all have our journeys, and I can be respectful of where you are, even if I hold differently, even if I know by the end of my journey, I realized, okay, Judaism has deep meaning. Like Judaism holds deep truth and deeper wisdom for where purpose lies, where joy lies, where meaning lies. And I followed that and just was like, you know what? Even if it's all wrong, let me do the thing Eliza said. Let me be focused. Let me try it. What's the worst that's going to happen? I won't like it.
But you can also switch paths. The whole point of putting these blinders on is that when you zone in and you figure out a derech and a direction and a path that you want to go, and you go in it, like you said, if it's wrong, so you like move the blinder a little and then you move to the right, or you move to the left and you figure out where your spot is. But when you don't, sometimes people are like, no, I'm just going to try everything on for size. Well, that's okay. But if you don't walk around in it, and if you don't feel it and really know what it is, you just like try it on for a second, it's not actually enough. It has to be more experiential. So it sounds like you dug into your Judaism. You learned about it, but you more than learned about it. You experienced. You said like, oh, cool, let's try a Shabbat, or let's learn about prayer. I don't know what everything is on your journey, but those types of things that you looked into.
Yeah, I had a to-do list, and it was like all the things I ticked off.
What was on your to-do list? Like, I want this to be not just informational for people, but I want it to be inspirational. I want people to have a takeaway of like, oh, somebody went about their journey this way. Oh, that's good, like wisdom for maybe how I could go about a journey of my own exploration that leads me to whatever the end of the road is.
Yeah, and I think everyone should have a to-do list, but mine was halacha, which was Jewish law. I wanted to know, like, what is this law thing? I wanted prayer. I wanted God. Like, what do we say about God, and what is that relationship? Why is that meaningful? Modesty and dress was another big one for me, because that was big. That was like a big, hard moment, because in Hollywood auditions, like everything is, you sort of bear it all, really. And to cover up and to make choices to cover hair, like all of that was very new to me.
Right.
So I wanted to explore the deeper meaning of why, not just because men can't control their eyes. Like there had to be more to it. Right. And relationships, romance, marriage, and relationships. Like, what did that? And that's when I was looking around for someone who could speak to the matchmaking process, because I knew that shidduch system, the matchmaking system that my grandparents were a product of, felt so archaic. But I knew that we all come from Torah observant people. Like our matriarchs and patriarchs like lived by Torah, and somewhere along the way, like there are offshoots, and I think that's a part of the journey. But I wanted to go back to the book. Like before I pick my story and write my story, I wanted to know what the book said.
What is the Jewish story?
The OG.
And now let me write my Jewish story. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. But everyone can have different things on their list. Maybe
of course. This is your list. Everybody should have different things on their list and a different priority and a different direction, because we're each unique. And the whole goal is that we bring our uniqueness and the everything that we are, our light unto the nations. We just shine it all over, but we have to figure out what it is exactly and how it is. Like, I knew I wanted to get married and have a family. Those are my two aspirations in life. Married, family, right? What do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know. I want to be married. They're like, no. What do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, I really don't know. Well, what did you go to school for? Well, I didn't figure it out there either. Right. I designed my own major. It was nothing. It was a combination of I went to university and I got a degree and I just still didn't know what I wanted to be. And it was very frustrating to be a young adult who had a desire to get married and build a family, which, by the way, is so not popular.
No.
Let's go get our MRS and figure out, what to do with our lives.
MRS, I love that.
Right?
Yeah, no one goes to Jerusalem to study. Everyone goes to Thailand or India on a spiritual journey. Right. It's not sexy to go to Jerusalem to some, all Orthodox seminary in Harnof. But I didn't care. To me, TMT is the not sexy, not cool thing.
Yep.
I'm going to do the thing that not everyone is doing because we're already a sub-minor, tiny little minority on this earth.
It's crazy how small we are in number, by the way. Just to dig in, we are almost non-existent on this planet. At the same time, the effect that the Jewish people have had in this world, being a light unto the nations and being a support and everything from technology to wisdom to theater to the arts, the explosion of Jewish talent in this world is extraordinary. So I'd love to dig in a little bit more into marriage because everybody talks about dating and love and romance and it's cool, let's figure out how to get ourselves into a relationship. Yay. And I'm yeah, good. Getting into a relationship is not as hard as staying in a relationship. And I don't know if you can validate this at this point, but many people are no, the problem is finding the person. And I'm no. The problem is keeping the person that you find and choosing them every single day. I wake up next to you and I still go, I pick you. And I still think we're better together. That you plus me is a really smart combination. And that's something that I should hyper focus on and put my efforts in, even when I don't like you today, but I do love you, if you know what I mean. If you're married, you get it. And if you're not, you don't.
But what you're saying, and it's making me think of what we talked about yesterday when we filmed together for the Soulmates episode for Jewish Unpacked. It's exactly that. It's this trophy, and the credits roll at the chuppah.
Right.
So the story ends where really the story should begin.
Correct.
And that's where I've missed all the wisdom.
Okay, so you have to fill us in. The story begins, right? Mazel tov, we break the glass. Woo, we have a party, and now you go home, and real life happens.
Yeah.
So give us I don't know, a little, I'll give you, I'm going to be a little vulnerable.
Yeah.
My first 5 years were rough. So going from me to we was really hard for me. I had lived in my parents' home. I got married at 25. I didn't really, other than university, I didn't move out of the house until I got married. I really didn't have a reason. I got along with my family. I loved them. They loved me. I just need to go get my own apartment for what reason? And I got married and it was first of all, on my phone, who do you call first? Forget about speed dial. I'm talking about before speed dial was there, right? I would always call my dad. Yeah. Hey, Dad, I need to go here and I need to do this and I need directions and what about this and what's the fastest way to do this or the best way to do that, right? So I got married and I would still call my dad and I was hi, and I was I should probably be calling my husband to ask this. Is that who I should be calling? Who's my go-to, right? And I just had this mental shift of who's my person?
Yeah.
Right? My family. They were my people. And then I got married and I was no, you're my people. You're mine. I'm yours. And I can count on you and you can count on me. And I had to go through a shift and a growth in the very beginning. What was the beginning of marriage like for you? You had done a lot of growing. Not everybody has challenges.
And I was going to say, that's the difference. And maybe this is less of me sharing and more of some questions for you so you can help me as I navigate my first 5 years. Because they are not easy. They're beautiful and they're expansive. And we have, I got pregnant right away, which I got married later. That, I didn't expect
right away?
that.
Give me a timeline-ish.
We got married January 2020, right before COVID.
Okay.
And I gave birth in October.
Oh,
so right away. Right away.
Right.
And I look, again, I was 32, so I knew we're gonna dive into this. Yeah. And I remember having a conversation. My husband and I were at Shabbat dinner with a family that was start right away. Real life doesn't start until you have children. And I think we needed that nudge, but then we look back and we're we really didn't have just us time. Right. We met, we got engaged within 9 months and married about a year and change later. Mm-hmm. So not as quick as you guys, but it was quick because again, I came back after my to-do list journey. Yep. I knew what I wanted. I had a list. First couple dates with my, now husband, it was clear that there was something there. There's a real alignment of, it felt like home. I've been hearing that a lot in this Soulmate episode filming journey. It's should feel like home. And then I whipped the list out, which is like not how I ever dated. I wasn't like, this is all the stuff I need. But I was like, this is what I want. Do you or do you not? And he, TMT, was like, list means great. You know where you want to go. You're mature. I love all things on list. Let's go. And I was like, perfect. Like if he didn't want stuff on the list, or if he was afraid of list, that would have been a sign for me that he's just not ready. But I came back from seminary, from my Jewish journey, clear. I wanted marriage. I wanted growth. I wanted someone that wanted a home filled with Jewish spirituality, because that stuff was deep. That stuff was truth. Like, I don't want anything else.
And he fit that mold.
He fit that. He was already on that path.
That's amazing.
Which, again, I don't know if that's for everybody. And he was a little bit ahead of that path. And I remember someone...
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Somebody is always ahead in the journey. You're on the same road. You're going the same direction. But somebody is always ahead and somebody's always behind. And it's not that ahead is better and behind is worse. It's different paces. You're going to still go to the same destination. You just might be moving at different speeds.
And I needed that, though. Like, I knew myself then... Before, and you said, is it what you expected? If you had told me 10, 15 years ago, like, you'd be married to someone who was like all about keeping kosher and Shabbat and was like super into like nitty gritty halacha, I'd be like, ew, that's so gross. That's so not cute. Like, not my type.
Not sexy.
I met him and he was like, I'm not going to eat this in like a really cool, casual way, but we were at a party.
Yeah.
And just something was served in a bowl that to him wasn't like up to his kashrut standards. And I was like, that is cute. Who are you? Like that is because it now became a part of what I found meaning in, what I found value in. I respected that. So where are we? First 5 years. So then as we are now in relationship and I know that we want to build a family, I'm like, let's do this. I guess people are telling us there was a lot of that, which I think
a lot of external pressure to go build a family now, do that now. It happens to be in more observant circles. People start families sooner.
Yeah.
They don't wait around for 1, 2, 3 years unless there's medical reasons or other things going on. Sometimes people are finishing school, but often people are serious about marriage, want to have a family, and it's like, so we got married, so we'll build a family. It doesn't, there isn't a delay or a pause. I think that we, for just a few months, maybe 6 months or so, we, didn't get pregnant. And then somewhere around the 6-month mark, we started trying. So about 1.5 years after we got married, we had our first child. So we had a little bit of, our time together, but it still didn't, there was a lot of adjustments. I was 25. I hadn't been living on my own. I hadn't been living in an independent life, doing my own thing. It's not like the modern human of today, right? This was more like traditional, you went from your, parents' house to you and your husband's house, and that was the life. And for me, there was just a lot of, again, that we adjustment that I had a hard time with. And sometimes my husband would look at me and he's like, are you okay? Did I do something wrong? And I'm like, it's not you, it's me. Yeah. And I don't know what's wrong, but there is just something that doesn't compute in this brain and this heart of mine that I just am sorting out. I have to figure it out because something doesn't feel right and something doesn't make sense. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm just not used to this soulmate relationship, that I have to see you every day. We were both working from home, so we saw each other, morning, noon, and night. We spent Shabbases together. Everybody told us, go out, only go out for Shabbases. And at one point, my husband's they're like, for the whole year, for the whole first year, you have to go out every week for Shabbos.
Whoa.
My husband's 10 years older. So he said, I've been going out for Shabbos meals for years. I finally have a home. I want to host people.
Yeah.
And the advice in our community was go out. You don't need the pressure of having Shabbos on your own. And somewhere around month 4 to 6, we were like, that's just bad advice for us.
Yeah.
We started hosting. It was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And I think everybody means well. And the advice isn't bad advice. It's just advice.
Yeah.
If it's for you, then it's good advice. If it's not for you, then it's advice that you should go, oh, thanks for that information, and pass and move on. And we kind of internally had this push-pull, what do we do? And I was like, no, we have to go out. It's not right. We're not allowed to have guests. I was like, who made up that cockamamie rule? Yeah. You can't have guests for the first year. We can do anything we want. Somebody said to us, I think it was actually a Chabad Rebbitzin. She said to us, Aliza, if you want to build your home having guests, do you want to do that? Is that a regular thing you want to do? I said, yes. She goes, then you should for sure be building that in your first year. And I was like, oh, you get me. I love you. And I came home and I was like, we can have guests. We should have guests. This is our destiny. This is our future. And we have to start building that now. And that was something that was so empowering and so beautiful. So I totally get that community pressure, like have kids or do this. And you're like, but is it right for me or is it right for the community? Or is it like, where is the advice, my advice that I needed to hear?
Well, and I love that you ran it through your discernment first. You were like, this is, okay, maybe there's something to it. And then you went and found more advice. And you've got a different rabbi or rebbitzin. You've got a different Torah or face to that Torah.
There's 70 faces to the Torah. So there's a different piece of wisdom that can come from any spot. But it was the first couple months were rough.
Yeah.
I was like, he's like, I just want to stay home.
Yeah.
Like I just
Well, your husband's a great host. That's like my husband.
I mean, he's a great
he
chef.
We're both like, I don't do kitchen. You want an omelet? Would you like a piece of toast? I could do a pancake.
I can cook. And we have a thing.
No.
He does the meal. I do challah and desserts.
Okay.
So I'm the baker and he's the chef. That's our division of labor. But for years I was the chef and the baker. And then we like slowly shifted it as I started working more. But yeah, he's phenomenal. Like phenomenal in the kitchen.
It's so beautiful. And I think finding your flavor, I always say that, like find your shade of Jew. Right. So like, yes, that first year, and yes, having children quickly was like recommended. I think we ran it through our discernment. We were like, yeah, let's go because we don't know how long it'll take.
How old are your kids now?
4. Ari's 4, and Hanan's 2 in like 4 months. They're amazing, and I'm so glad we had them when we did. I do question, though, whether that is what created a lot of that. Well, it's going to be the first 5 years stress. That intense transition into new identity as married, transition into immediate need to provide for children, need to sustain a marriage, need to now COVID hit. So we started our own business together, and now we're working together because we're crazy. Like that. It's just like, let's just add more elements, you know?
My husband and I were working together also, and we also had a division of labor. Like, you do this and I do that. But we saw each other all the time, and we were working together all the time. They're like, does he work in your business now? I'm like, only when I can convince him to come on camera. Yeah. Only if he has a non-speaking role where he can just, say one word and make everybody laugh.
He's amazing at that. Do you feel like you phased him out a little bit knowing yourselves now and how you work best together?
No, I would love to be working more with him. When he is open to it or when it is the right moment, I would love to do more because I think that people need role models. So this podcast is Matchmaker, Find Me a Love That Lasts. It's really made for singles, but it's also actually made for people that are married who want to help people that are single, who want to help them find a love that lasts. And it's all about wisdom. And my whole goal is that we don't just have singles on the podcast, but that we have couples, that we can bring people together that are like, I've been married for 5 years, 20 years. I had my in-laws on, married 63 years, right? Like, what does it take to make a relationship last? Yep. Only 2% of marriages make it over 50 years.
No.
Think about it.
That's a real statistic.
Not only do you have to stay married, you got to both be alive.
Well, I was just going to say, yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why a couple might not get to 50 years. Think about 50 years and at what age you have to get married and life expectancy. They're at 62 years. No. I think it's like 0.02% of marriages that get to it. It's not even 2%. Like, it's ridiculous how much effort it takes to live that life together over and over. I asked them, I was like, is there anything like you don't know about each other? Yeah. Is there do you keep learning new things? And they were like, no. Like, we have learned everything. Yeah. We know each other's shtick.
We got it down.
Yeah, like you learn the pattern. So I don't know if you've seen this, but I'm a little bit obsessed with relationship patterns.
Okay, tell me.
And seeing how a couple progresses through the relationship and catches themselves.
Yep.
So sometimes, whatever the pattern is, now for me, if I'm in a mood, right? I'm in a mood like somebody did something wrong or he did something wrong, I'm upset with him, or it's like I'm in a mood. So now I'll just say, no, I'm in a mood. I have a thing, right? I don't know what's going on. It's not you. Everything's fine, but I'm not fine. He's like, oh, good. Information, helpful, right? So
that's a crucial first step to know that it's you and not the other person. And that to me, like, I was very independent up until I got married. Still am fiercely independent. I am, I'm a producer. I'm traveling.
I mean, you're here in New York City and your kids and your husband are home.
Yeah. He's daddy daycare. I mean,
that's what my husband is. He's
incredible
Mr. Mom right now.
We're so blessed.
And we divide the roles, but and maybe this would be helpful for you, and you're probably going to do it in a different order, but I was mommy, stay-at-home mommy, like, nursing mommy, sleeping in the bed together mommy, snuggling mommy, morning, noon, and night mommy for 15 years. And then 18 years later, we made Aliyah, so 3.5 years ago. And then we kind of went from I'm mommy and, he's out working, and we shifted, and then we were 50-50, and then we shifted, and now he's full-time home and I'm full-time working. And then still we have to make space in life. So there's something beautiful about that transition. It sounds like you did this at a much earlier stage where you're like, okay, I'm home, I'm mommy. No, you're home, you're daddy on call. Okay, switch.
We've been going back and forth. I'm very invested in being at home with the kids the first couple of years, at least until 1.5 years. Mm-hmm. But 2 is when they start going anywhere.
Yep.
And so a lot of stuff just went away, and I was okay. My husband would be like, yeah, let's develop this new film, or let's do this. And I was like, I am now accepting that I'm not going to be productive me. It's not the productive Becky Tahel running from meeting to meeting, hustling, producing nonstop, late nights on set. I'm not going to do that. You do that. So we had a good stretch, and I'm in that phase now. So it's interesting. I'm feeling it in my body. I'm like, I think I needed to step away. I needed to come to New York. It's all from God. But I needed this episode around soulmates to really refresh for me who he and I are. You said some things to me yesterday that really helped me clarify, wow, it's those moments of hardship. I don't even call them doubt, but those moments where you're like, shoot, did I marry the right person? They're usually just you haven't eaten, you haven't slept, and you haven't done something for yourself that you need, and you've forgotten what that is. Right. And so you question and you project it like a mirror to the other person in front of you. Isn't that what we do to life?
Right.
And the person in front of us is to blame. It's not. And knowing that about myself and starting to re-find myself postpartum as a mom, this new identity, I'm doing new work. I work with a coach and I do deep work, and so does Nathan. Now we're starting some new stuff together, and that's new for me. I've never been in a relationship this long.
Right. That's the thing. Also, I was never in a relationship that long, right? Until I was in that marriage for that length of time, I was never in a relationship that long. And also, you went from producing life and stuff to producing your life.
And humans.
Humans, right? You literally went to producing family at home and building the foundation of what you want for your life. So I think you just took your producer role and you just went inward instead of it being projected outwards to everywhere else. And you went, no, this is my time. I'm producing right here. I got little humans brewing. I got family brewing. I've got an investment going right here, the biggest, most important investment that I'm making in my life. And I'll get back out there to doing my investment with the world. But first, let me invest in my world.
And that was hard at first. There was a lot of guilt and shame, and I didn't feel very happy about it. And I was like, I'm not being productive.
That's, it's
what is that word, right? But what is productive? Right. And even now, we just went to the lake with the kids. We have a RV that we lived in a fifth wheel. And you remember we traveled across the country.
Though? You have
we
it?
traded it in for a slightly smaller trailer. That's more manageable. We're coming back. We're going back around the country. Book us. Back around the country with the kids. But it was the most beautiful. We were at the lake. And I was like, what does give me true joy? Is it being productive? Is it that dopamine rush of doing and the call and feeling like that hustle? Or is it connection? And I had a bit of an existential crisis. I cried a little about it too. I was like, I don't think I really know where deep joy comes for me. And I'm reinventing that. TMT again. And that's the journey of marriage and becoming a mom or a parent, and that next phase of life is rejiggering meaning around some of those things that initially brought me joy. I still love the hustle, but I can't wait to fly back tonight, pop into bed with my daughter who still sleeps in our bed, and
the family bed.
That's joy.
Yeah,
the family bed is joy. That to me is joy, no matter what people say about family beds or not. Right? That no longer. I've learned, but it took me 2 years, the moms that instantly get it, I love being a wife and a mom.
Insta-mom.
Not me. It took me a long time to rewrite that character script, that narrative of my life. And now I can speak to it because I'm, 4 years into being a mom and 5 years into marriage. I'm more rooted in this identity. But those first 5 years are rewriting an entire novel, depending on what age you stepped into this new character.
I like the perspective of this being a rewrite or the next chapter, or, you talk about happily ever after and you get to yay, marriage, and then poof, what's next? And I love this vision of I'm writing a new story. What is my next chapter? What does that look like? How does it feel? And permission to let it be messy. It doesn't have to be a perfectly planned, figured out chapter. In the same way that business is messy, in the same way that we have trial and error, and you film for hours and hours and you cut and then you turn it into something magical. It's the same way that we're producing our lives, where we are living it for hours and hours and hours. And it's like, yeah, cut. I just want to remember the good parts. Like that other stuff, like, yeah, right? But like, it didn't make the cut into the memories of my life and the story that I'm writing.
I love that. I love it like that. And you said a big word for me is permission. We don't give ourselves permission to do much. It's kind of crazy. Like, it's like God, Hashem, is like constantly showering everything, and we are the ones that don't give ourselves permission to receive, which is actually one of the first books I read on my journey. It's an incredible book. Permission to receive and permission to believe, but it's all about permission. So for people single or married that are just like, why am I not where I want to be? And I know that's my work right now, even in moments where I'm like, I'm not in deeper joy. I'm not in deeper connection with my husband. I'm not giving myself permission. Sometimes at the end of a long day, I work. I'm working full time. So my schedule is I drop the kids off in the morning and I don't do car line. I go in with them. And that's new to me. I used to be like productive. Now I want to be there.
Take that moment in the beginning of the day.
I love it. We have a picture spot. I take a little picture every morning, and then I like schmooze with the teachers. I say hi to the parents. The kids know me. I get to see my kids like, kind of seep into the school world. And then I go home and I work nonstop. I barely take a lunch because
I don't.
From the moment who eats? Ew. 9 to 2, I work.
Right.
The most that I can.
Right, that's
and
it.
then 2 to 7, I'm with the kids. And then evening, I'm usually cleaning up or whatever it is. So it's nonstop. And sometimes by the end of the day, I'm like, where's my husband in this? Right. Oh,
right,
hey, you.
When do you guys spend time together?
Well, that's the thing. It's permission to spend more time and be in connection with him. And I've had to tell him, I'm so sorry. I'm like touched out. I am hustled out. I'm connected out, and this is not great. We do date nights. That's a massive thing for us. And like we used to, like spending money on the kids is our priority. So it's hard for us to spend, that's gone now. For us, it's everything for us. We're doing a couples retreat thing this weekend, and we're doing our first overnight without the kids. Ever together.
I love it.
But like the timing of this week.
Need.
Yeah.
That's so what you need.
And I can't, and that's like, we're going because we're investing in us and we're giving ourselves permission to do that. So permission, again, as a single, permission to what? To open your heart.
Right.
Permission for someone to give to you.
Right.
Everyone's got so much baggage. And like, I know mine. I grew up in a divorced household. I saw a lot of terrible examples of things that I don't want to give myself permission to feel.
Right.
I don't want to feel that. That's scary. So I want to protect myself. But no one ever deeply connected or was intimate doing that.
Okay, so
tips for me.
Yeah, no.
To keep doing that.
No. Yeah, permission. Granted. Take the time that you need. Figure out the time that you need. My husband and I are constantly balancing our schedules, and now that we live in Israel, so I work American hours. What does that mean? It means that I don't sleep. I'm up very late. Anyway, I don't sleep. But if I go to bed at 2 o'clock, I'm not waking up with the kids at 6 or 7. So he wakes up with the kids in the morning, and sometimes I'm waking up at 10 in the morning or noon. It depends on how late I went to bed and what I was doing that night. And it's like, did I see him before? Well, I saw him at dinner, but like I didn't see him at bedtime because I didn't have a bedtime because I put the kids to bed or he put the kids to bed or we snuggled or we read or we didn't. And then I went back to work and I had a nighttime thing. So something that we incorporated, and this came later in our journey. First of all, somebody had to tell us to do date night.
I'm taking notes.
Embarrassed to tell you. Somebody said, you must do date night.
Yeah.
And I was like,
no, we need to be told.
I was like, who has time or money? For No,
nope.
for real.
You don't have time. You can't afford not to.
I'm going to do a stay-in date night. It's easier, cheaper, and it's no hassle with the kids. No, you have to go out. So that's number one. Number two, after you get past a certain number of years and you've done your date nights, whatever. First of all, on the date nights, no talking about kids, money, family, nothing. Who you are, your dreams, why you came together, like the kishkas of what made you guys who you are and why you chose each other. But when you get done with that, because we're married 22 years now, woohoo! At a certain point, you want to bring in more energy. So we now do double date nights. So yeah, my husband jokes. He's like, we're going to make an app just for couples who want to meet other couples and want to go out on date nights. And you can like book a schedule. Like, our date nights are Mondays. So like Monday, 7:30, boom, invite to date night.
Tell me that doesn't exist. Is there an investor listening?
I don't know, but we need double date night app. Okay? And the whole thing is for married couples to meet and connect with other married couples. And I'm going to say this because somebody's going to get the wrong idea. So I'm not talking about swingers. Okay? I just have to put it out there.
We had to name that. Yes,
I just said we live in Pardes Chana, which happens to be a very loving, accepting, wonderful, beautiful, religious and other community. And I'm like, what? Like I believe in soulmates. I believe in bringing couples together. I do not believe in anything that does anything to tear that apart. But we do double date nights, and I'm going to tell you, shtick. Everybody needs shtick. So here's our shtick. Maybe one day I'll come out with it. We pick our couple. Would you like to go out Monday, 7:30? Good. Yes. Where do you want to go? We pick the restaurant. Great. We show up with our bags.
Stop.
With 4 napkins, like the checkered napkins, cloth napkins folded in the bag. Because, I don't know how, New York City's different. But in Israel, like there's a lot of just, everything's paper napkins. Even at a nice restaurant, it's like a nice paper napkin, but it's like a paper napkin. No. You need cloth napkins. So we come with our shtick, with our napkin bag, and every couple, we put it on the table. Sometimes if they don't come till later, if we don't go together or they come later, we like put the napkins on the table as if it was like set, and they don't even know. And then we collect them at the end. They're like, what are you doing? We're like, no, there are napkins. We brought the napkins.
You guys are wild. I want to double date with you. What?
You got to come double date. So they're like, you bring napkins? We're like, who doesn't want a good napkin after a meal? Like, you want to like wipe the schmutz off your face, and you want it to be cloth, and you want it to absorb, and these little paper things aren't it?
It's amazing.
But we have shtick, we have play, we have banter, we have humor, and the thing is, we will sit next to each other. It's sometimes like you snuggle if we get there first, so we get the bench if there's a bench. And we sit next to each other and we laugh and we play and we go on double date nights. And it is gorgeous. It is a way for us to connect. It is a way for us to be a unit with another couple that's a unit. And also to not get distracted by our lives and talking about all the stuff, but to talk to other people. Who are you? Where are you in your life? What's going on? And what are your hopes and dreams? And like to remember who you are as a couple and what you're doing as a couple and what they're doing. And it's a soulmate double date.
You just are full of zingers, but you're also full of reminders for me. That is another big thing that started happening for Nathan and I the last year. Is hanging out with more married couples.
You don't. You hang out with like friends of the kids' parents, but they're not your friends necessarily. They could be, but you don't like them. You like maybe want to have your own friends.
And it's just a different sort of environment. Like the friend group that he inherited by accident. He's a musician in LA, and so in these circles, he was invited to this one incredible family's home, and every Thursday night they just have a gathering. And this is like warm, wonderful 35 and up couples. And I never saw that. Like growing up, my parents, would like they were old, it felt. They didn't go out and party. This is like you can hang out and have a drink and dance. And like, yes, we're not raging like we're in our 20s, but it's a party atmosphere. It's a fun and playful atmosphere. It's that Shabbat energy in the week with people just connecting. I didn't, again, role models. I didn't have that example. I didn't see couples hanging out together like that.
That example.
And I have to set that example. Oof.
Yeah, your kids have to know about it as they grow up. Absolutely. Like my kids know, it's like a thing. They're like, oh, is it your date night? Are you going out? And we're like, yeah. They're like, can we watch a movie? I was like, oh, you like date
They get a
night.
treat too.
Yeah, they get a treat also.
I love that.
So they know, but they know like Ima and Abba, we make time to go out together, to be together because A, we love each other. B, we exist without you. You wouldn't exist without us. But we as a couple and a unit exist without you.
Yep.
Please God, you will grow up. You will build your own life. You will find your own person. You're going to move out.
Yep.
But if we don't nurture our relationship, when you leave, you know how many couples get divorced and like, well, we grew apart over the years. It was only the kids holding us together. Why?
Yeah.
Because you didn't do double date nights.
Yeah.
Like you need the soulmate double date.
I also love just remembering that we're rewriting that ancestral trauma of like bad relationships or woman carried this and man only carried that. Like I like that we're showing this new example. And that's what it is for my kids. Like when they see us kissing or hugging, they're like, Ima and Abba hugging. And I can feel Nathan and I both having come from these sort of divorced homes and not ideal like examples of soulmate relationship. I can feel us both sort of like feeling really good about that shift that we're creating in the future generation of soulmates. I love that. I love having that be a part of our purpose of continuing to do all of that and investing in each other, because it's easy to just let that fall to the wayside.
I can totally just.
Which is because the credits roll at wedding. And I like that we're talking about this. I like that. I want more of this content. I want more of that being glamorized. Really good couples.
Marriage.
Happy, ritual.
Healthy marriages where you see real life happening. Like I saw real life with my parents. So my parents were an example of a couple that struggled together but figured it out and stuck together. And it was like, I love you, but I don't like you. So we don't have to talk today. Like, you know, we could have a moment to move on, but it didn't mean divorce. It didn't mean separation. And it was like, well, we picked each other, so let's figure out what the next steps are together. Even if it's a little bit messy, even if it doesn't feel good today, you're not going to feel good every day in your marriage unless you feel good every day in your whole life and you've never ever felt
There's no way.
There's just no way. It's not normal. We're humans. We're not angels. But what I love about everything that first of all, I love everything we've talked about, but what we've talked about also is soulmate clarity. And I just want to take a step back to the beginning of your journey. You had to go from a me to a we process. Soulmate clarity, by the way, it's something that we talk about in Matchmaker, Find Me a Love That Lasts in the book. It's chapter number, Soulmate Clarity, chapter number 11.
Love it.
It digs into it, and I have like a signature key process to this, and it's a little bit of what I guided you through, much more obviously in depth and that, but I think that you figured out you. And when you had a handle on who you were, now you went, and who is this person that I'm looking at with me? And do they make sense? And then you went, yeah, that fits. And you're like, and you like sat with it, like it, because it's scary to go from that me to we and go, I'm going to pick you and I'm going to say no to the rest of the world. And that's what you did. And now 5 years later, 4.5, you have a couple kids, you have a career that is ramping up again because you had a thriving career and you had a build the family moment and you have a career that's on the rise and you're digging into these things. And I just feel so much gratitude for you sharing your story and for opening up and being also a light and an inspiration for singles and for other couples that are out there. I think this isn't also just for singles, it's for couples as well who are, maybe there's people that are struggling in the soulmate journey. Like some people are like, I'll just find somebody else, it'll be easier. And I'm like, no, right? You take 50% of the problem with you. You're half the problem. Figure you out, figure your relationship out. If it really doesn't work, that's a different story for another time. But take the wisdom, take the inspiration, and build a beautiful life with your partner and go on double dates.
I love that. And I love normalizing the mess, which is what you're doing so beautifully, and letting people know that it's not easy, but we can do hard things. In fact, hard things build us. You don't want some like every day is easy, just like you don't want a life where nothing happens, because that's that flat line. So I like that. I like embracing the mess. I like making that mess.
I like that the mess was just glorified. Like you need the mess because it gives you the highs and lows.
Yeah, make the mess your message. I always loved that sort of MO.
The mess, your message.
You build on that message in the way that's best and most reflective of you authentically, and it inspires others to be like, yeah, okay, that isn't, yeah, I had a moment.
Right.
But that's what built me. So let's own those. TMT, mess means growth. Mess means opportunity for more authenticity and connection.
I love it, Becky. Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Please share this podcast with somebody who needs to hear it. Go grab your copy of Matchmaker, Find Me a Love That Lasts right now on Amazon or any of your favorite sites. Follow us here. Follow us on social. Share. Just spread the love because we are better together.
Yeah. You're amazing.